The shocking truth, Florida's prison that haunts inmates far worse than Alcatraz. The whispers had circulated for decades, dark tales that gripped the imagination of all who dared to speak of it. This was no ordinary prison, it was a living nightmare, a fortress where shadows danced and tortured souls cried out for freedom that would never come. Stripped of hope, the inmates inside were haunted by more than just the prison bars. They were haunted by something else entirely, something that sent chills down their spines. The walls echoed with unnerving laughter, but it wasn't the laughter of joy. No, it was the cackle of despair, a sound that would make anyone's blood run cold. Stories of unseen figures lurking in corners, phantom voices calling out into the darkness, and the smell of burnt flesh clinging to the air like a bad memory. Even the guards, hardened from years in this hell, spoke in hushed tones, eyes darting nervously, glancing over their shoulders as if they expected to see someone or something lurking just out of sight. Every so often, a chilling event would send shockwaves through the prison. Inmate after inmate would wake screaming in the dead of night, their eyes wide with terror and their bodies drenched in sweat. One man claimed he saw a ghostly figure standing at the foot of his bunk, an apparition with hollow eyes that seemed to reach right into his soul. Nobody believed him, of course, until he vanished without a trace, leaving nothing but rumors behind him. As days blurred into years, a pattern emerged. Each time a new inmate stepped inside, they found themselves engulfed in fear, battling the haunting presence that permeated every stone of that forsaken building. Some said the prison was built atop an ancient burial ground, cursed from its very inception. Others believed it was the spirits of the wrongfully condemned, their souls trapped, seeking vengeance, and in the midst of this maelstrom of fear, there was Eugene. A fresh inmate with wide eyes and a heart pounding with dread, he felt the weight of the prison pressing against him like a physical force. He could sense the pulse of something sinister lurking in the shadows, waiting. Would he succumb to the same fate as those before him, bound to a legacy of terror, or could he uncover the dark secrets hidden in this hell's belly? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Eugene pressed deeper into the prison, the air thickened. A gruesome mural was revealed, scrawled by inmates long gone, depicting monstrous faces gripping the bars of their cells. What did it mean? The whispers grew louder. Perhaps they were right about the souls imprisoned within these walls. Each day unfolded more mysteries, and every corner turned brought him closer to an unsettling truth. He stared into the darkness, heart racing. What would he find if he dared to venture further? Was the prison truly alive? What horrors lay ahead, waiting just for him? Eugene stepped backward, nearly losing his footing as the chilling realization hit him. The mural stared back at him like a menacing entity, each grotesque face distorted by agony and despair. He could almost hear their silent screams, echoing in the depths of his mind. This place was not just a prison, it was a mausoleum for the damned. A sudden chill swept through the corridor, freezing him to the spot. He turned, instinctively feeling the weight of unseen eyes boring into him. A flicker of movement caught his gaze, and there it was, a figure darting into the shadows. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat resonating with dread. Who was that? Was it an inmate or something far more sinister? Eugene's breath quickened as he moved toward the figure, his curiosity battling with an instinctual urge to flee. The prison was alive with whispers, taunting him, urging him to explore deeper. Yet every step was soaked in fear, each sound amplifying the silence that enveloped him like a thick fog. Lowering himself against the wall, he moved cautiously, pressing forward. The flickering lights cast long shadows that seemed to stretch and reach for him, and he could feel an intense stillness in the air. A low murmur brushed his ear, barely loud enough to hear, carrying a familiar plea. "Help me!" It was a voice that bottled fear mixed with desperation. Eugene's mind raced. Was it one of the spirits? Or was it another inmate, lost in his own prison of despair? The weight of the walls pressed harder, emotions clawing at him. He could turn back, forget this madness, but something deep inside urged him to press on. As he rounded a corner, he stumbled into a small cell that hadn't seen light in years. Inside, the remnants of a shabby mattress lay, rotting and covered in mildew. It was empty, yet it reeked of sorrow. Eugene could almost sense the pain embedded in its fibers. There were marks on the floor, scratches, as though someone had desperately tried to claw their way out. A sudden bang erupted from the far end of the corridor. Eugene jumped, his skin prickling. The laughter returned, but this time it was closer, almost breathing down his neck. Panic ignited, and he raced down the hall, the worn linoleum screaming under his feet. Every cell he passed felt alive, like lurking beasts waiting for a moment of weakness, and then he saw it, a door, slightly ajar, a distant light flickering beyond. Hope surged through him. Maybe this was a way out or a path to a revelation. But something tugged at the edges of his mind. Should he dare to open that door? Would it lead to salvation, or deeper into the horrors that lay in wait? As he grasped the doorknob, a sudden voice broke the tension. "Don't go in there." His heart dropped. It was another inmate, eyes darting with fear, standing back in the shadows. "Why not?" Eugene gasped, desperation clawing at his throat. "Because, once you see what's inside, you'll be one of us forever." The weight of those words fell over him like a shroud. What lay behind that door? Was it truth, or was it the ultimate darkness? Eugene's pulse raced as he contemplated his choice, standing on the precipice of revelation. What choice would he make? Would he plunge into the unknown, or retreat into the safety of ignorance? And what would he discover that forever altered the course of his life? He took a deep breath, heart hammering, and slowly pushed the door open. As the door creaked open, a rush of stale air hit Eugene like a heavy curtain falling between him and the outside world. The dim light spilled into the corridor, revealing a room filled with shadows that danced ominously against the walls. A flickering bulb struggled to stay alive, casting eerie shapes. With each step inside, the voices grew louder, murmurs swelling like an unseen tide. Eugene felt his heart pounding in his throat, each beat echoing in the suffocating silence. The room was cluttered with old furniture, the remnants of forgotten lives. A chair lay tipped over, a table scattered with dust and debris. But it wasn't the mess that snagged his attention, it was the sight of something in the corner, half hidden by darkness. It looked like a mirror, but distorted, reflecting and twisting images that seemed to swirl, pulling at his senses. He stepped closer, and the chill surrounding him intensified. The murmurs morphed into a cacophony of voices, each pleading or screaming in torment. "Help me!" echoed among them, layering upon the urgency in the air. "What is this place?" he whispered, his voice barely breaking the surface of the suffocating noise. "Stay away from it." The inmate's voice rushed to warn him, desperation dripping from each word. "It shows you things that can destroy you." But Eugene was frozen, entranced by the swirling images. Faces began to emerge, twisted in anguish, their eyes pleading for release. Memories? Visions of the past? The weight of realization hit him as one face became clear, his own, a tortured reflection of despair. "No!" He stumbled back, his voice a frantic gasp. "Get out of my head!" The laughter from before erupted around him, a haunting cackle that chilled him to the bone. It was as if the walls themselves were mocking him, reveling in his fear. He felt the air grow heavy with regret and sorrow, an unsettling sensation, as if the very walls of the prison were alive, feeding off the anguish trapped within. Suddenly, a hand clasped his shoulder, firm and cold. Eugene spun around, adrenaline surging through him. It was the inmate. "We have to go, now." Before he could comprehend what was happening, the inmate yanked him away from the mirror. But that was when the true horror unfolded. The image inside the glass rippled violently, morphing into a vision of the prison, the walls alive and moving, reaching out like grasping hands. Then, he saw them, shadowy figures trapped forever, lost souls longing for freedom, their screams rising to a shriek. Eugene's breath became shallow, his eyes wide with terror. "What are they?" he managed to stammer. "They're us," the inmate whispered, his face pale. "Those who dared to look too close. Once you see them, you can't escape." A darkness swirled within the room, tightening like a noose. Panic pushed Eugene to the door, but it slammed shut unexpectedly, a heavy presence blocking his escape. The light flickered erratically, plunging him into darkness, the temperature plummeting as if the shadows themselves had come alive. "We can't stay here. We have to find a way out," Eugene shouted, fear sharpening his voice, but the inmate only shook his head, terror painted across his features. "The exit's not the problem, it's what you'll carry with you when you leave." With eyes glued to the unnerving mirror, the last image etched itself into his mind, a truth he couldn't comprehend. The cacophony of voices swelled, drowning out his thoughts. Eugene felt time slipping away, his mind racing. What would it mean to leave this place, if he was never really free? The shadows lurked closer, and with a sudden thrust of resolve, Eugene pushed against the door. "We have to fight," he cried, fueling his fear into action, but the laughter rose again, filling the room, as if the prison itself was celebrating his descent into madness. Would he become one of its lost souls? And what awaited him outside? With desperation clawing at his chest, Eugene flung open the door, stepping into darkness, heart racing with an urgency to escape the very prison he never wanted to enter. Would he find a way back to the light? Or would he become another whisper lost to the walls? As he fled into the hallway, a chilling truth lingered in his mind: some doors lead to freedom, while others seal one's fate forever. The hallway swallowed Eugene whole. He dashed through the narrow space, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The shadows twisted around him, elongating like fingers eager to capture him again. He could almost hear the laughter behind him, echoing down the corridor, a symphony of madness that warped his sense of direction. "Where do we go?" Eugene panted, turning to the inmate, whose face had drained of color. Fear was etched across the man's features, each line a testament to his own haunted past. "Keep going. Just keep moving," the inmate urged, his voice strained. They sprinted past rusty bars and cracked walls, the heavy air thick with the scent of mold and despair. It felt alive, crawling with memories, painful echoes of men who had suffered, each step stirring the ghosts that lingered. Suddenly, the wall to their right pulsated, a rippling wave of shadow obscuring the sunlight that struggled to filter through grimy windows. Eugene skidded to a halt, shifting his weight to peer at the unsettling sight. "What is happening?" he gasped, feeling an oppressive weight settle on his chest. "The walls, they feed on fear," the inmate explained, his voice trembling. "It wants to trap us in its cycle. We can't let it." Before Eugene could react, a horrific scream pierced the silence, reverberating off the concrete. He spun around, panic flooding his senses. "Did you hear that? We have to help now," the inmate shouted, grabbing Eugene's arm tightly. "We can't help anyone. We need to save ourselves." The cries echoed again, resonating with a haunting familiarity. The inmate's grip tightened, pulling Eugene away as the walls vibrated, as if alive, shaking with a sinister hunger. Each pulse radiated through the floor, making it hard to stand. The next turn was a choice between two doors. One was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning like a void. The other stood solid, an iron barrier that seemed to shimmer ominously. Without thinking, Eugene instinctively lunged for the open door, a desperate instinct driving him forward. "No!" the inmate shouted, his voice laced with fear. But it was too late. Eugene stepped through the threshold, and the door slammed shut behind him. He was enveloped in darkness, the sound of the world outside reduced to a muffled hum. He squinted, straining to make out shapes in the pitch black. A sharp chill enveloped him, creeping like fingers across his skin. "Stay calm," he murmured to himself. But the shadows began to peel away, revealing a wooden room where the air was thick with an unsettling presence. Faint whispers weaved through the silence. They wrapped around him, holding his breath hostage. "Help me," echoed a voice, familiar yet twisted. Eugene's stomach churned as he took a step further inside, forcing himself to remain steady. A small flicker of light drew his gaze, a candle slowly burning at the end of the room. The flame danced wildly, casting ominous shadows that tugged at the corners of his mind. With every step, the whispers grew stronger. He could see them now, images flickering just beyond the candle's glow, faces merging, one after another. Each twisted visage looked upon him with a desperate plea. Panic surged as he recognized them. They weren't just haunting figures, they were people he had wronged, families he had affected. "No! You're not real!" he shouted, scrambling back. But their cold eyes bore into his soul. Each face screamed of betrayal, pain, agony. The weight of their despair pressed down like an anchor. Suddenly, the darkness thickened, closing in around him, blotting out even the flickering candlelight. Eugene's heart raced, fear bubbling over. "What do you want from me?" he screamed into the void, feeling utterly alone. A deep, guttural laugh erupted from nowhere, shaking him to his core. "What you have done, what you have refused to face, you can never escape that." He strained against the shadows, each moment suffocating. Then, without warning, the candle extinguished, plunging him into total darkness. The haunting voices crescendoed, drowning out his thoughts. In the suffocating silence that followed, a singular thought struck him with terrifying clarity: the only way out was through. But with the whispers clawing at his mind, he had to ask himself, was he ready to confront the demons of his past? As darkness closed around him, he whispered, "I'll face my truth." Would it free him, or would it lead him deeper into despair? The air was stifling, thick with dread as Eugene stood in the void, panic scraping like a knife against his insides. He could feel the shadows clawing at him, closing in like a vice. Each whisper echoed in his mind, prying at the corners of his sanity. "Face it," they hissed, their tones dripping with malice, "or be consumed." He took a shaky breath, forcing himself to move forward. With each step, memories came alive. The faces surrounding him swelled and warped, their expressions distorting in rage and sorrow. "You left us," they chorused, a haunting melody of betrayal. "No!" Eugene shouted, hands clenched into fists. "You're dead. I'm not responsible." But he knew it was a lie. The guilt gnawed at him like a rat at cheese, relentless and consuming. The room began to shift. The shadows morphed into swirling shapes, coiling like snakes ready to strike. A flash of light erupted in the darkness, illuminating a mounted photograph on the wall. It showed a family, two smiling children flanking a father whose face was a grotesque mask of anguish. Their eyes pierced through the darkness, locking onto Eugene with a demand he couldn't refuse. "They needed you." The voice rose, relentless, reverberating through the room. "You said you would save them." Eugene staggered back, losing his footing. The familiar faces of his past flashed before him, their pain manifesting like a tangible force. One face stood out, a woman, her eyes brimming with tears, a nylon rope in her hands, her mouth opening to cry for help. He remembered the day he had turned away, convinced that it was someone else's problem. "Please!" he gasped, desperation flooding his voice. "How can I fix this? You're not real." "The veil between what is real and what you refuse to see has been torn apart," the mocking voice replied, laughter dripping from its edges. "Only truth remains. Embrace it." The shadows pulsed outward, revealing doorways that flickered like old film projections, scenes from his past rippling through the air like banners, each one a scene of agony or neglect: a child stranded in the dark, a panicked woman seeking solace, a friend lost in despair. "No! I can't relive this." He fought against it, hands raised as if to block out the memories, but they were unyielding. Each frame held him captive, forcing him to confront not just his choices, but the consequences woven into them like a dark tapestry. Suddenly, from behind him, a timbre of footsteps thundered. The inmate's silhouette appeared, stepping into the dim light. "Eugene! You have to let it go." His voice trembled, but there was urgency in his stance, a tangible pull drawing Eugene back toward the flickering candle. "Help me!" Eugene cried, the plea escaping his lips like a last resort. "You've faced this. How do I escape?" The inmate met his gaze, and for a brief, heart-stopping moment, Eugene saw understanding there, a flicker of shared torment. "You can't run from what lives inside you. Embrace it, Eugene. Only then can you begin to heal and fight your way out." The shadows surged, a whirlwind of darkness beckoning with sinister delight. Eugene hesitated, fear clawing at the pit of his stomach. "What if it destroys me?" The inmate stepped closer, fierce determination in his eyes. "Or it might just set you free." Suddenly, the surfaces of the room seemed to tremble, as if the shadows themselves held their breath, waiting. Eugene's heart raced, the weight of decision compressing around him. He looked one last time at the faces flickering around him, each one filled with reproach and pleading. Finally, he took a deep breath. "I'm ready," he whispered. As he stepped forward, the shadows lunged toward him in a dark wave. Would he find solace, or would the truth swallow him whole? With that question hanging heavy in the air, the candle blazed brighter, illuminating the path ahead, but what awaited him in that light was shrouded in uncertainty. Eugene felt the darkness engulf him, cold tendrils wrapping tighter around his body as he stepped into the flickering light. For a heartbeat, the world around him exploded into blinding brilliance, memories merging into kaleidoscopic fragments. They rushed past a dizzying blur of faces and emotions, churning like a storm. He gasped, feeling the warmth of sunlight on his face, a stark contrast to the frozen shadows that pursued him. It was an illusion, he thought, wresting control from the nightmare. But as his vision cleared, he found himself standing in a sunlit park, laughter ringing out like melodic chimes. Children played, their feet slapping against the grass, a fleeting vision of joy. Then, the laughter changed, morphing into shrieks. Suddenly, the air felt heavy, suffocating, and the shadows returned, swirling around him, dragging with them the sweet scent of childhood gone sour. "No! Not again!" Eugene yelled, backing away. But the park transformed before his eyes, the vibrant hues turning into muted grays. The laughter twisted into cries for help. He recognized the anguished wails. They belonged to the children, the ones he had neglected. The ones he had failed. "Eugene!" Their whispers echoed, hauntingly familiar. "Why did you leave us?" He stumbled backward, hitting a tree, his heart racing like a wild drum. Each face distorted in agony. I tried to save you," he shouted, his voice breaking, the weight of his guilt crashing down upon him like a tidal wave. The inmate's presence loomed. "You can't run. You didn't save them, face it. You let them down, and they're still waiting." Eugene clamped his hands over his ears, desperation clawing at him. "No. I didn't mean to. I wasn't strong enough." But the shadows closed in again, encircling him like vultures. The cries grew deafening, and he felt his sanity slip. Just when he thought it would consume him, a voice broke through, not the chaotic din, but a calm, soothing whisper. "Every choice leads you here. Embrace the pain, Eugene. Only then can you move forward." In that moment of clarity, he understood. This wasn't about whipping himself into submission, it was about facing the chaos that lived within him. The shadows trembled, a violent quake emanating from their very core. Taking a deep breath, Eugene reached outward, feeling the darkness hit his skin, cold and biting. "I can't erase the past, but I can change the future." He shouted into the storm, feeling the edges of fear dissolve. The shadows recoiled, reacting to his words as if they were tangible. The air shifted. The park began to fade, leaking into the darkness like ink in water. But before it disappeared entirely, he caught sight of one last image. A child, small and afraid, looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. "I need you," it pleaded without words. "No!" Eugene screamed as the scene started to vanish. "I won't leave you." Panic surged as he fought against the fading memories. Just as he felt himself slipping back into the void, he seized the child's hand. The sensation jolted through him, anchoring him to the moment. The shadows screamed, furious at the defiance, but their cries turned into whispers, and then, silence. The darkness thinned, peeling away like old paint. The world unfurled before him, a new space emerging, a clean slate, full of promise. But before him stood a door, creaking open with an eerie invitation. "Will you walk through, Eugene?" The inmate's voice was quiet, a mere shadow of its former self. Eugene stared at the threshold, the weight of unspoken truths heavy on his shoulders. One step forward could change everything. But was he truly ready to embrace what lay beyond? With his heart racing, he took a cautious step closer, unsure of what revelations awaited him on the other side. Eugene steadied himself at the doorway, the air thick with the scent of must and lost dreams. The moment froze, every heartbeat echoing in the silence. It felt like a challenge, daring him to see what lay beyond. With a deep breath, he stepped through. The world spun, colors and shapes swirling around him. The darkness melted away, revealing a vast chamber bathed in dim light. The walls were rough, gray stone, and the floor was chill beneath his feet. The atmosphere buzzed with a strange energy, both alluring and foreboding. Before him lay a long corridor lined with iron doors, their surfaces scratched and dented, like graves holding captive memories. Each door bore heavy locks, some rusted with age, others brand new but ominous in their pristine fresh paint. Eugene couldn't shake the feeling that behind each door was a life story, a haunting, a tragedy, or a ghost of someone who had been trapped, much like he had. As he cautiously approached the nearest door, whispers flitted around him like moths drawn to light. They spoke in hushed tones, layered with emotion, fear, regret, and desperation. It sent shivers up his spine. He pressed his ear to the cold metal, straining to understand. "Help us," came the faint voice of a child, or so it appeared. Eugene recoiled, stomach twisting. Another child? Was he hearing things? Uncertainty gnawed at him. "Don't be a fool," the inmate's voice slithered into his thoughts. "They are nothing but echoes of your mind, remnants of those you abandoned. Let them go." But he couldn't. The need to soothe their cries, to quiet the ache in his heart, propelled him onward. He shifted to the next door, feeling heat radiate from its surface, defiant against the chill of the room. Every instinct told him to turn back, to run. But this was his chance, wasn't it? Eugene clasped the handle. It felt alive under his grip, pulsing with something darker, fear, perhaps, or consequence. With a deep exhale, he swung the door wide. It creaked open, revealing a small space, suffocating in its dark intimacy. Inside, a flickering lantern hung from the ceiling, casting shadows that danced like figures embroiled in torment. In the dim glow, he saw faces gathered in a circle, their eyes vacant yet pleading. Eugene, their voices intertwined, echoing off the walls like a spectral choir. "Why did you forsake us?" He staggered back, heart hammering in his chest. The memories lost in his mind surged back like a sudden wave. Each face bore scars of abandonment, their pain mirrored his own. He stumbled over a discarded toy, sharp with the edges of regret, and fell to his knees. "No. I should have been there. I should have saved you all." The despair clawed at his throat, choking him. "Then set us free." One of the figures stepped forward, a child with familiar eyes reflecting the innocence he had let slip away. "You're the key." They reached out, not to accuse but to connect. The urgency in their gaze lit a fire within him. If they were a manifestation of his guilt, perhaps they also held the way out, the way to redemption. But even in the depths of his despair, the shadows crept closer, dark and insistent, whispering against his resolve. "Turn back," the inmate sent a shiver down his spine. "Leave them to their fate." But Eugene felt the child's small hand wrap around his. The warmth ignited a flicker of hope. He could not walk away this time. This was his moment to rewrite the past, to fight back against the darkness. "Enough!" he shouted, his voice stronger now. "I won't abandon you again." Just then, the walls began to tremble. Dust fell from the ceiling as tremors pulsed through the floor. The landscape around him wavered. The child's face radiated relief, but he could sense that this was just the beginning. He had unleashed something primal, something that demanded to be confronted as the shadows closed in, becoming more than whispers and threats. They shifted, morphing into solid forms, dark figures that loomed and reached for him. Face it all. The inmate's laughter echoed, resonating with the truth. Eugene had to confront his fears, his regrets. His very soul. Eugene squared his shoulders, steeling himself as the chaos swirled around him. He could feel the child still holding his hand, grounding him amidst the storm. Then, the shadows surged, hungry for despair. "Will you fight? Or will you be consumed?" He stared into the dark abyss, determination igniting in his heart. As the oppressive darkness pressed in, Eugene took a deep breath, ready to confront the demons he had long avoided. If he could save them, perhaps he could save himself. But when the walls split open and a blinding light poured through the fissures, he hesitated. A choice lay before him. Would he step into the light and risk losing everything again? Eugene's heart raced as the light beckoned. It felt alien, yet familiar, drawing him in like a moth to flame. But as his instincts screamed to retreat, another voice crept into his thoughts, one of caution, whispering doubts that clawed at him. What if stepping into the light meant leaving everything behind? What if it was just another trap? The shadows surged, a whirlwind of dark energy swirling with desperate cries, pleading for release. The figures reached out, their eyes hollow but desperate, reflecting the anguish he knew all too well. It wasn't just the children anymore, it was everyone he had ever failed, every moment he had turned away from his responsibilities, the times he chose comfort over those in need. "Eugene!" the child cried, tugging at his hand. "You can't leave us." Their voices crescendoed into a chorus, challenging his sanity. "You have to make a choice." Taking in a shuddering breath, he felt the child's small fingers grasping his tightly. If he stepped into the light, what would it reveal? Would it illuminate his past mistakes, or consume him like the shadows threatening to engulf them? The weight of the decision crushed him, he could feel every heartbeat pounding like a drum of war. "Help us!" The chorus became frantic, anxiety threading through their calls, and for a split second, his resolve wavered. Was this some kind of sick illusion? Yet, staring into the child's hopeful eyes, something shifted in his core. Those eyes reminded him of every child he had let down, every moment he had buried deep in regret. The time to atone was now. He had to face it all, not just the shadows, but also the truth of who he had become. Ripping over the hesitation, Eugene stepped forward, propelled by an urgency that felt both terrifying and liberating. As he moved closer to the brilliance, the shadows shrieked in anger, wrapping around him like tendrils of smoke. They clawed and grasped, threatening to drag him back into the abyss. "No!" he shouted defiantly. "You don't own me." With a fierce kick of energy, he yanked the child forward with him into the blinding light. Filled with warmth, hope flooded his senses, and suddenly he was outside of himself, floating, soaring above the chaos that had consumed him. The horror was replaced with an overwhelming sense of clarity. Memories cascaded like a waterfall, moments he had pushed aside in shadows, friends he had lost, promises he had broken, smiles he had neglected. They whirled around him as if demanding acknowledgement. Each face flickered in and out of view, each voice welcomed him, offered forgiveness. But just as he began to bask in this euphoria, the light began to dim, and a chilling laugh echoed through the void. The inmate's voice was unmistakable. You think you can escape? I am the shadows incarnate. You should have left them to rot. Suddenly, the warmth turned frigid, the faces around him started fading. He felt himself slipping, tumbling back toward the threshold he'd just crossed. Panic surged up. No. I want to go back. I choose to fight. The moment hung in the balance. If he fell back, he could lose his connection to the child, to the warmth and forgiveness that surrounded him. But there was something beyond that light, something lurking, waiting with greedy anticipation. Could he summon enough strength to confront not just the darkness, but the monster that posed as his own regret? As the shadows tightened their grip, Eugene closed his eyes, murmuring a silent prayer to the child still holding his hand. They would face it together, whatever it held. Eugene steeled himself to plunge deeper, challenging the abyss within. He opened his eyes, determined to find the heart of the darkness as screams echoed and shadows lunged. Would he emerge transformed, or would he be lost forever within the echoes of his past? The darkness closed in, pressing against him with a weight he could feel in his bones. Eugene fought against it, a visceral need to reclaim the light filling his lungs, but the chill of uncertainty wrapped around him like a shroud. He gritted his teeth, his world narrowing into a singular point of focus, the child's eyes, shining with both trust and fear. Stay close, he murmured, squeezing the small hand in his grasp. As their fingers intertwined, an electric pulse ignited between them, a flicker of defiance that pushed back against the suffocating shadows. Eugene's heart raced with renewed determination. They were not trapped yet, they were still alive, still fighting. Who do you think you are? The inmate's voice boomed through the void, snapping at Eugene's resolve like a whip. You think you can change this? You're nothing but a coward. Fire burned bright in Eugene. He felt rage swelling, a fury directed not at the inmate but at himself. He had let that shame, that cowardice fester, grow into something festering and dark. I'm not afraid of you. He shouted, raw and primal. The shadows screamed, thrashing wildly. A chilling wind whipped around him, and he could almost smell the despair emanating from them. But amidst that cacophony of anguish, the faces of those he cared for stood strong. They were his anchors. Eugene pushed forward, embracing the confrontation. Face me. He dared, his voice steady, cutting through the darkness. Show me your true form. In that moment, the shadows merged, twisting and shifting into a figure darker than night. A grotesque mimicry of Eugene himself, a reflection warped by anger and regret. You can't escape me, it sneered, its voice a chilling echo of his own. Eugene staggered back, numbness sweeping through him. It was everything he had buried, the hurt, the failure, the regrets. You're wrong. You're just the fear I carry. The realization hit him like a lightning bolt, illuminating the depths of his mind. He could conquer this. Look at me. He yelled, I'm not broken. I've faced my failures, and I'm still here. The figure hesitated, its shadows flickering at the force of Eugene's conviction. The child beside him echoed his strength, staring boldly at the darkness. Eugene felt the warmth return, rekindling the fire within. With a firm grip on the child's hand, he pushed forward, the light spilling out from his core like a beacon in the night. I choose to forgive myself. I choose to fight for them. The darkness trembled, its form flickering violently. No! The figure screamed. You can't defeat me. Eugene drew from every memory, every moment of connection that he felt in the light. He felt their strength flow through him, an unstoppable tide against the shadow. The air vibrated with energy as he took a step further, the child mirroring his every move. With one final, fierce yell, Eugene hurled himself at the shadow, a collision of light and darkness that sent shockwaves through the space. Instantly, a blinding flash erupted, threatening to overwhelm him. Then silence. A hush that rang in his ears as he opened his eyes again, breathless. Colors washed around him, the brilliance of light swallowing every iota of darkness. But there was something unsettling in that brightness, a shape moving in the distance, a figure standing alone in the shadows. Eugene squinted against the glow, heart racing anew. What remained? He felt a dread knotting in his stomach. Was this the end or a new beginning? And across the shimmering landscape, the familiar echo of laughter twisted into a sinister note that threatened to unravel everything he had just fought for. Who was waiting for him? What did this shadow hold? Eugene took a tentative step forward, the weight of uncertainty pressing down again. He had broken free, but at what cost? The answers lay ahead, shrouded in light and lingering darkness. Did the battle truly end here? Or was it merely the prologue to something far more terrifying? Eugene blinked, adjusting to the overwhelming brightness that enveloped him. The warmth felt foreign yet comforting, a stark contrast to the bone-chilling shadows he had just fled. His heart raced with uncertainty as he stepped forward, flinching at the echo of laughter that drifted in and out of the light. Suddenly, the glimmer of radiance faded, revealing a new space less forgiving, more reminiscent of the prison's core. Each step echoed hollowly on the cold tiled floor, the faint whispers of long-lost souls echoing in the background, a haunting reminder of what he had faced. But now it was different. The air was lighter, charged with a tension that buzzed around him like static. He inhaled deeply, needing this moment to regain a sense of control. Before him stood a simple door, unremarkable yet imposing. It loomed like a guardian, waiting for him to decide. It felt different from before. This door represented a choice, a chance to confront whatever awaited him on the other side, not as a prisoner, but as a survivor. Eugene's heart raced as shadows danced along the edges, a stirring reminder of the dark figure he had vanquished. "You can't escape what you are," it had taunted him. But here, the warmth of that earlier fight pulsed through him, reminding him of the truth he fought to accept. He was not the coward it wanted him to believe he was rising. The voices returned. "Find us," they melded, a cacophony of desperation and hope. Each heartbeat echoed with their longing, but Eugene pressed forward, knowing he could not waver. With one steadying breath, he grasped the doorknob, its cool surface grounding. His heart thumped a thunderous rhythm as he twisted it slowly and pushed open the door. Bracing himself for anything, he stepped through, the world transformed once more, no longer cold prison corridors, but a vibrant landscape teeming with life and color. The softness of sunlight washed over him as lush greenery surrounded him. Eugene found himself in a park, strikingly similar to the one he had envisioned during his darkest moments. Children laughed on swings, their voices free and innocent, the echoes of his past now brightened by the joy of the present. "Eugene!" An all-too-familiar voice broke through his awe. He turned, and there stood the child, the one who had gripped his hand, with eyes shining both with past anguish and a future alive with possibility. "I thought I lost you," he said, feeling an urgency twist his gut. "You didn't lose me," the child smiled, a radiant warmth spreading from their small form. "You chose to fight. You faced the darkness that was trying to consume you. This is your reward." Eugene felt tears prick at his eyes, not of sorrow, but relief. The weight of shame slowly lifted, replaced by the promise of redemption. As he looked around, faces he thought were lost began to surface, families, friends, all caught in the light, free from the chains of regret, all smiling softly at him. "They're proud of you," the child said. "You have the courage to embrace your truth. You saved us, Eugene. You have the strength to continue. But how can I move forward?" he asked, the shadows of doubt creeping back. "By remembering," the child whispered. "By choosing every day to honor us, by helping others." With that understanding, a profound sense of peace washed over Eugene. He watched as the park grew brighter, each source of laughter mingling with his heartbeat, as if welcoming him back into the world he had longed to be part of. The whispers faded, replaced with melodies of hope. "Now it's time to go, Eugene. Live. Help. Remember." Eugene nodded, feeling the shadows dissolve completely behind him. A new dawn was crashing over the horizon, igniting everything in glorious hues. He could finally see a path before him, a path he could walk proudly, freely. As he took a step toward the light, the last strands of darkness behind him slipped away entirely, leaving the weight of his past replaced with a promise. Eugene paused, glancing back, knowing deeply he was leaving that haunted place behind, but carrying its lessons forward. He took a breath and stepped into the light, ready to embrace every moment of his new life, free to make amends, to become a source of strength for others, no longer haunted but transformed. He turned, focused on the horizon, heart steady at last, and took his first real step into a future written anew. And there it was, the essence of hope. There's always a light waiting for you, just like Eugene found, and so can you. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.